Welcome to Retiring Well, where it's our job to help you enjoy financial security in any economy. I am your national show host, Michael Reese.
And in Birmingham, Alabama, this is Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor and Retirement Planning Specialist, Tad Hill.
And this week, we have a terrific show lined up for you. We're talking about the hidden costs associated with your investments. Very important topic, as these hidden costs can be a huge anchor on your returns. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show.
Retiring Well with Michael Reese, providing financial security in any economy. Today is the day you can take control of your financial future and eliminate worrying about your money forever. Retiring Well with Michael Reese, featuring Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor Tad Hill, founder of Freedom Financial Group in Birmingham.
Hidden expenses on your investment portfolio. I mean, how much can this actually come to anyway? Don't your advisors tell you how much you're spending on your investments? Aren't they sharing with you all of the fees that you're paying? Well, unfortunately, in our experience, there's a lot of financial advisors out there who aren't what we would call fully transparent when it comes to the expenses that you're paying. And a lot of times, they don't even know. Nobody's telling them. You know, a good example is with your mutual funds. Let's focus on that for a little bit. I have in my hands here an article from the Wall Street Journal. Now, it's a couple of years old at this stage, March 1st, 2010. So it's over 3 years old. Now, you can't tell me that your advisors, if they're paying attention, don't know about this, because this thing's been around for a while, and it's from the Wall Street Journal, from all places. But here's what it says. It says, the title is The Hidden Costs of Mutual Funds. It says, how much does it cost you to own a mutual fund? Probably a lot more than you think. In selecting mutual funds, most investors know to check the expense ratio. That's a standard measure of how costly a fund is to own. And U.S. stock funds, on average, charge 1.31% per year to the portfolio manager, and that's based on a Morningstar study. But that's not the real bottom line, says the Wall Street Journal. There are other costs that are not reported in the expense ratio related to the buying and selling of securities in the portfolio. And those expenses, now listen to this, those expenses can make a fund 2 to 3 times more expensive than advertised. In fact, here we have, I'm going to switch over now to Barron's. Barron's, and this came out just recently, March 2nd of 2013. Barron's is, again, on the same topic, the hidden cost of doing business. It says in a new study by Roger Edelin, I think his last name is, he's a finance professor at the University of California, Davis, attempts to reveal what he calls the invisible costs that eat away at returns, and that is transaction costs. And here he's talking about exactly what the Wall Street Journal was mentioning in the previous article. He says that the trading costs at the average fund, 1.44%. Now let's do a little math here, because here's what the Wall Street Journal was saying. They said, look, you've got Morningstar telling you that U.S. stock funds on average charge 1.31. Now we've got Barron's telling us that a study from the University of California, Davis, that the average fund is charging another 1.44 on top in transaction costs. And they're not having to report that to you, so there's a lot of lack of transparency going on. You add those two together, and what does the average mutual fund cost you? 2.75% each and every year. Now, that's 2.5%, 3%. Folks, that's like a variable annuity, which is also pretty nasty. Anyway, I talk to people all the time. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I spoke to somebody. They had $500,000 in their IRA 10 years ago. Guess how much they have in their IRA today? $500,000, the same amount. Yet when we ran the analysis to find out how much they're truly paying in fees, you know what we learned? They were paying about $13,000 a year in fees, exactly what this study is saying. And they did the math, $13,000 a year for 10 years. Their money managers made $130,000 over the last 10 years. How much did they make? Nada. Nothing. Is that fair? I sure don't think it's fair. And so one of the things that I encourage you to do is make sure you know what you're truly paying on your investments. It can make a huge difference in your performance, especially over a period of time. All right, what I want to do now is throw it over to your local trusted retirement planning specialist and get their take on this very important issue.
And now, featuring Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor Tad Hill.
Well, Mike, this is a very important topic, and you've seen all the reports. You've got the articles there that you were referring to. Anybody that's in our business is very aware of this. And the truth of the matter is, the expense of your mutual funds can make up over half of the money that you're spending to have your money invested. One of the things a good process will do is it will take your mutual funds and tell you what the expense ratios are. And let me be very clear about this. The expense ratio that you see online or that you read in your prospectus is normally only about half of the cost because of the most important factor that, Mike, you just talked about, and that is the trading costs, the execution costs. You have to look at things like the turnover ratio inside the fund. So it's very common that when people come in and sit down with me and we run our report, see, here's the thing, you have to actually have access to the right types of programs and information, software programs, that will give you this data. So it's not uncommon for me to see mutual funds with 4% fees. Well, the stock market, until the last rally over a 10-year period, it wasn't up 4% for the whole 10-year period. And if you're paying 4% a year in your mutual funds, no wonder you've been going backwards. So it's very important to understand these things. This is a key topic. How much are you paying to have your money invested? I sat down with a couple of weeks ago and I said, what are you paying your broker? And they said, oh, well, we don't pay him. We just pay an annual admin fee. And I said, so your broker works for free. And I can't tell you how many people are actually under the impression that the people that are helping them manage their money or invest their money are actually a nonprofit. And let me assure you, nobody in our business runs a nonprofit. I don't, and I don't know how anybody else could either. So understanding what you're paying to have your money invested is critical. One of the things about having a fiduciary duty, which is the kind of duty that I have to my clients, there are a whole lot of people in our industry that do not have a fiduciary duty to you. Because of the license that I hold, I have a fiduciary duty to you. So one of those things that comes along with that, full transparency in terms of how we get paid. So this couple sat down and we went through their mutual fund holdings and we found out that in addition to paying their advisor over 1% every year, they were paying 2.5% on average in their mutual funds. Now they had about $1 million portfolio, and so now $35,000 a year going to their advisor. Now, like I said, I don't work for free either. But understanding this and understanding how much you're paying now versus what it would cost to work with someone like us, that's very important. It's also important to understand, why do you have the mutual funds that you have? What are they designed to do? One of the things right now that we have to be very careful about is how much risk we're taking, because the market's at an all-time high. So a lot of times people have moved to safety to get safety from their mutual funds, and their mutual funds aren't safe either. Look, if you've got these questions, if you want to know what are the things that I need to do to protect myself, how do I know exactly how much I'm paying? Do I have exposure to the stock market that I don't want? Do I have exposure to the bond bubble? Give the number on the screen a call. I will sit down with you and we will answer these questions. I'll set aside time on my calendar to help you understand what's really going on.
Wow, Tad, thanks again for that terrific information. And folks, you have an opportunity to visit with one of the country's best retirement planning specialists who lives right there in your town of Birmingham. All you need to do, as he mentioned, call the number on the screen right now. I can promise you that you'll be glad that you did. Now, don't go away. Coming up, we're going to be answering our question of the week. Hi Birmingham, Mike Reese here, and I have to tell you, I think you're very fortunate because one of the nation's top retirement planning experts is right there in your neck of the woods. It's my good friend Tad Hill. Tad and I, we get together with top financial advisors, gosh, 4 or 5 times a year anyway, just to brainstorm, figure out how we can better help you. Tad, why don't you take a moment and share with the folks how you and Freedom Financial helps people with their retirement planning in Birmingham.
Well, Mike, as you know, we're chartered retirement planning counselors. So what we do is we sit down with you and help you put together a plan to secure your retirement so you have peace of mind and can accomplish all the goals that you want during your retirement years. And it's about understanding what questions to ask and putting that plan together. So for the folks that call the 800 number, I'm willing to set aside some time on my calendar to sit down and do exactly that. Review your situation and help you know what needs to happen to secure your retirement.
Folks, call that number now.
Let's talk about a customized retirement plan. Retiring today is not what it used to be. What works for your neighbor may not be best for you. Yet everywhere you turn, it seems like financial firms are giving cookie-cutter advice.
Your circumstances are different than anyone else's. As a chartered retirement planning counselor, my Retirement Roadmap Review is designed to uncover the must-know facts for your situation before we start implementing solutions.
It's one more reason that now, more than ever, you need to talk to a retirement planning specialist. Why not call the number on your screen right now? We'd love to talk to you about protecting your retirement. Let's talk about retirement income. Studies show that a large number of retirees are worried about running out of money. Broken promises from banks, Wall Street, and the folks in Washington, D.C. may have you worried about your own retirement security.
Having a predictable income stream is a key ingredient to protecting your retirement. One potential way to do that is to have your income stream based on math and not markets.
It's one more reason that now, more than ever, you need to talk to a retirement planning specialist. Why not call the number on your screen right now? We'd love to talk to you about protecting your retirement.
Welcome back. It's time for our question of the week. This week's question comes from Ken in Birmingham. And Ken writes in, I've been reading about the banking problems in Cyprus, and I was wondering how this might impact the European Union and ultimately the U.S. markets. You know, Ken, that's a terrific question. And Tad, since Ken is right there in your hometown, why don't we have you answer this very timely question?
Well, Mike, as you know, I was actually honored to be on CNBC's Closing Bell a couple of weeks ago, and this is the topic that I talked about. What's going on in Cyprus? How is it going to affect the markets? So it's interesting that most of us have never even heard of Cyprus, and now all of a sudden it's the focal point of international news. You know, the European Union has got a lot of problems, they've got a lot of challenges, and they are far from over. We've also done a lot of stuff monetarily here domestically that's going to cause us issues in the future. So understanding these things and how they interact with each other and how we need to protect ourselves, that's one of the things that we do for our clients. We actively manage our portfolios. Look, if you're retired or you're getting near retirement, I can't tell you how strongly I believe that buy and hold is dead. We have to actively manage your portfolios. We've got to be paying attention to things like what's going on in the world economy. What areas should we be investing in? How do we make sure that we're avoiding having exposure to things like the Cyprus crisis, the Greek crisis, any other one that's going to come up moving forward? How do we get some decent returns and still make sure that we are protecting ourselves against getting run over by the global economic freight train? You know, there's a lot of things that point to recovery, but there are a lot of very real concerns. So when we talk about things like Cyprus and how is it going to affect us, we have to be aware of those things. We have to be very conscious of investing in a way where we can be nimble, we can make changes, we can move to cash if we need to. So our team of portfolio managers do exactly that. I can tell you that we've been eliminating our exposure to Europe and everything European for the last 2 years. We saw this way back a couple of years ago, we were actually writing to our clients regularly saying, hey, these are the moves that we're making, and this is how we're protecting you. So it's not that we're magicians, we can't predict the future, but if you know what you're doing and you're paying attention, you absolutely can have some impact on your clients' lives by reducing their risk. So that's what we do for our clients. Give the number on the screen a call. We'll tell you how actively managing your portfolio can benefit you too.
All right, in this session of Chalk Talk, I want to share with you how fees work with variable annuities. Now, this is kind of its own little world, variable annuities. They are known to be very expensive. Heads up though, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. You know, if you think about it, you know, would you rather drive a Mercedes or a VW Bug from 1972? Well, clearly the Bug is cheaper, but most of us would rather drive the Mercedes. It's perceived to be of higher value. So variable annuities, they do have a lot of fees. That might be good or not, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But what is important is that you understand them. So here we go. First, for those of you that are not super familiar with variable annuities, basically they are an insurance company wrapper around a mutual fund portfolio. So here's what happens. First, imagine this. Here's a list, a menu, if you will, of different mutual funds. And I know it looks like an egg. I tried to make it a circle. What do you want? Anyway, so it's like a 401k. You get a list, a menu of mutual funds that you can select from, and you can move among them all you want. And then there's this wrapper on the outside that is the insurance company wrapper, and that insurance company might provide some additional benefits for various fees. Now, here are the different levels of fees that we have. The first fee is what's called M&E, which stands for mortality and expense. Well, what the heck is that for? Well, it pays the insurance company, number one, but number two, in the event that you die, there is sometimes some minor death benefits. Basically, you get what you put in, your premium deposit, that comes back to your beneficiary or your account value, whichever is higher. It's only helpful to you if the market crashes like it did in 08. The next level of fees are you have your mutual fund fees. Well, we've talked about that on the show, right? But mutual fund fees, so these are usually about 1.25%, 1.5%. You got another percent here. And then the last level of fees are any riders. Now, riders, you might have an income rider, a death benefit rider, and so on. When you add up all the fees with a variable annuity, it is very common to find 3 to 4% per year in fees. Very common. Is that bad? Is that good? Well, generally speaking, it's probably bad. But if the market's crashing and this account's making money because of those fees, hey, that might be a good thing. My point, you just want to know what the numbers are.
Let's talk about ways to protect your principal that have the potential to earn a decent return. Many of you want your money to be protected. That makes a lot of sense in today's unsettled economy. But it's difficult these days to find a place that pays you a reasonable amount of interest. It's frustrating. That's where we come in.
Ways to protect your principal with the potential to earn a decent return are available if you know where to look. We evaluate them every day.
It's one more reason that now more than ever, you need to talk to a retirement planning specialist. Why not call the number on your screen right now? We'd love to talk to you about protecting your retirement.
Hi Birmingham, Mike Reese here, and I have to tell you, I think you're very fortunate because one of the nation's top retirement planning experts is right there in your neck of the woods. It's my good friend Tad Hill. Tad and I, we get together with top financial advisors, gosh, 4 or 5 times a year anyway,
yep,
just to brainstorm, figure out how we can better help you. Tad, why don't you take a moment and share with the folks how you and Freedom Financial helps people with their retirement planning in Birmingham.
Well, Mike, as you know, we're chartered retirement planning counselors. So what we do is we sit down with you and help you put together a plan to secure your retirement so you have peace of mind and can accomplish all the goals that you want during your retirement years. And it's about understanding what questions to ask and putting that plan together. So for the folks that call the 800 number, I'm willing to set aside some time on my calendar to sit down and do exactly that. Review your situation and help you know what needs to happen to secure your retirement.
Folks, call that number now.
Well, it's time for our retirement rescue of the week. And this week, we're going to talk about Jeff and Suzanne. Jeff and Suzanne are from right here in Indian Springs, where our office is, and they came in after watching the television show for a few weeks. They had a lot of the questions about areas that we've covered over the last several weeks. They had a lot of mutual funds, and they weren't sure how much risk they were taking. They wanted to know what the cost of these funds were. Neither one of them had started taking Social Security yet, and they wanted to have our Social Security analyzer run their scenarios and tell them what are the best strategies for them to take their Social Security. They knew that they had, after 2008, transferred a lot of their holdings from stock holdings to bond holdings. And they had been hearing not only from our radio show and television show, but from other media sources that there is a bond bubble. And let me tell you now, if you're watching and you've got bonds in your portfolio, it is absolutely critical that you understand how you're holding those bonds and what the length of term of those bonds are. Long-term bonds are very risky right now. So anyway, Jeff and Suzanne came in and they said, Tad, we've got questions about all these things. We've done a phenomenal job of saving for retirement. We've worked hard. We've set a lot of money aside, but we're not sure how to protect ourselves. And we've heard you say, and we agree, that retirement is 25 or 30 years of unemployment. And we're worried about being unemployed for 25 years, and we want to know how to protect ourselves. So here's what we did. We sat down and we ran our Social Security analyzer, and we found out that the best way for them to take their Social Security was for her to take it on her record at 62, to delay his until 66, but then to actually file and suspend, and for her to switch over to his record at 66, and then we wait and take his at 70. Now that's a complicated strategy, but that's the kind of answers that our Social Security analysis software gives to our clients. We also found out that if we went through another 2008, which I don't believe is so far-fetched, that they were going to lose more than 50% of their life savings because of their current portfolio structure. They wanted to know, how do we protect ourselves against that kind of risk? So we sat down and we put a plan together that showed them every single option of how to go about structuring a retirement portfolio. That's critical. We have to understand everything that's going on in your life, and Jeff and Suzanne understood that. So we sat down and analyzed how much income are they going to need from their portfolio, how do we take their Social Security, how do we eliminate the kind of risk that exists in their portfolio today. Now, we can't eliminate risk altogether, but we can absolutely mitigate it. We can ratchet it down so that you're not taking that kind of risk with your retirement. Once we got done, we had a plan that laid out how much income they were going to need, how to invest their money to generate that income, what was the most tax efficient way to withdraw the money, how to use certain types of strategies to protect them against high health care costs, and also to leave the money as tax efficiently as possible to their children. Now, these were all questions that they had coming in. We constructed a plan to do all of those things. If you want that kind of planning for you, if you've got these types of questions, give the number on the screen a call. I'm willing to set aside time on my calendar to sit down with you and answer these questions for you. We do require that you have at least $250,000 saved for retirement, but if so, I'm willing to construct this type of plan for you and your spouse to protect your retirement.
Boy, I always love listening to the client story of the week because it gives you yet another example of why it's so important to sit down with a retirement planning specialist, someone who actually focuses all of their time and attention on helping people enjoy financial security during their retirement years. All right, you have the opportunity to take advantage for you to sit down with someone that really knows what they're doing. I urge you, call the number on the screen right now. Take advantage of this opportunity. Okay, now it's my turn to share a little bit of a story with you. And in order to do that, we're going to have to look at an IRA blow up. All right, this week's IRA blow up comes from PLR, Private Letter Ruling is what that stands for. It's IRS speak, 20053032. And basically, here are the facts of the matter. Here's what we've got going on here. Some folks here, what they did, an IRA owner, they set up a trust. And the trust was a beneficiary of the IRA. The idea was that it was a husband and his wife was the primary beneficiary of that trust, and his children were the secondary. So in other words, the guy dies, the money should go to the wife if she's alive, to the kids if they're not. And it's an IRA, and so what's supposed to happen is the money through the trust is supposed to go straight from his name to his wife's name, or his name to a beneficiary IRA for the kid's name, so they can stretch it. Well, here's what happens, and this happens unfortunately all the time. And this is why naming a trust as an IRA beneficiary can be a huge problem. Because what happened here was the trustee, after the guy died, the wife was gone already. So the husband dies, the trustee, the guy managing the trust, transferred the IRA ownership into the name of the trust. This happens all the time. The trust is a beneficiary, so he transferred it to the name of the trust. Well, guess what? You cannot do a rollover into a non-person. So in other words, basically what happened? He cashed out the IRA. The idea was he was going to cash it out, rolled over to the kids' names, because that's kind of what the trust said. But you know what? The minute he cashed out that IRA, you know what happened? Bang! All the taxes were due, and there was no way to fix it. Folks, we tell you this all the time. When an IRA owner dies, you cannot do a rollover. You cannot do a rollover with one exception. A surviving spouse who is the beneficiary can do what's called a spousal rollover. Other than that, nobody can do a rollover. A kid can't do a rollover, a charity can't do a rollover, a trust can't do it. Nobody can do a rollover. Because of this, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars were given over to the IRS that didn't have to be given, all because a trustee was trying to do his job and he messed it up. So again, somebody dies with an IRA, step number one, talk to a retirement planning specialist, because it is way too easy to mess this up and just fork over thousands to the IRS that you just don't have to pay. So there you go. That's our IRA blow up of the week. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed our show this week. We talked about hidden expenses, answered some questions, had a great story. I hope you have a terrific weekend.